Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of How to Lose All of Your Friends. Damn it, welcome back to another exciting Dragon Ball Super deck profile. Today we're looking at Surge Cell. Um, so Turles Maidens have been getting a lot of attention. I figured I'd give my take on Cell Maidens. So this is the deck profile. Before we get into it, make sure to do all the YouTubey stuff, like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you think of the profile down below. There will be some gameplay up. Maybe the gameplay is already up at this point. I don't know. I was only on camera once this week, so you'll kind of see how that went. This deck plays really differently compared to most other decks in the format. This deck doesn't want to really poke at the leader, so you don't want your opponent getting any resources if you don't have to. That is the number one rule of this deck. Do not attack your opponent's leader unless you have to. Don't let your opponent take life unless you have to. Basically, you want to resource deny as much as possible. The leader fits that perfectly. So on the front side, we get to search top 5. We get to add any card. You don't have to reveal that card to your opponent because there's no limit on what cards you can grab. You can literally grab any of the top 5 cards. Then you shuffle your deck, discard a card in your hand. There's tons of good targets for that in the deck, which you'll see. He is a surge leader, so a yellow and a green card go underneath him. You draw 2, restand 2 energy, flip it over. On the backside, which is just a pure bonus to the deck, you get to remove its activate main. You get to remove one of the cards underneath the leader. And then either your opponent's battle cards are tapped for until the end of their next turn when they play them, or you can KO a battle card on the field. Doesn't ignore barrier, so that effect kind of sucks. And I'll be honest, I didn't really use the surge effect of the leader, but I suppose if you're playing an incredibly aggro matchup and you really need that, you could, but it's more about the search on the front, setting up your plays and making it as consistent as possible. So moving the leader out of the way. We'll start off first and foremost, we play 4 of the Dr. Zero super combos. These could easily be draw combos, but you don't like to take life in this deck if you don't have to. So we just use these to fill up our drop area. Plus we run a couple of rival targets. So cards that we could put into the drop area, we've got the Zarbon Cosmic Elite. I only run 2 of these. I never really played this card, and the only reason that I play it is to modulate the level of cards on the field. So if I need an extra 2 energy worth, this is easy for 1 green energy to make that shift. If it wasn't for that reason, I probably wouldn't run this card. The block or discard effect is just a bonus and not something that you need to go for all the time. I actually would consider adding in another 2 cards if I were to ever take this out. So I'd probably run 2 more rival cards like the Android 18 Krillin or something like that if I ever decided to take these out. But because, like you might have guessed it, we run Zeno Cell and a couple other arrival cards, we do want to be able to modulate our energy, our battle energy on the field as we want. So I run 2 of those. Then for draws and consistency, because we're not running super combos, I do run 3 draw apes. There are other yellow targets for the surge effect. You never really want to charge these guys, but they're perfect to discard for the leader's effect. They're perfect to discard for the Zarbon effect, and they're great search targets for the Giro. So 3 of those just to draw. And then kind of the complement card to that is going to be Ribrianne Punishing Passion. I run 3 of these. Basically, because you're resource denial in this deck, whenever your opponent gets low, you'll start using when they start getting low on resources, you'll start hitting Ribriannes to make your opponent start making difficult choices in their hand. And basically, if you can get your opponent down to 2 or 3 cards in hand, you just automatically win the game because you can use Ribriannes to empty the hand out. So that's kind of the majority of the Giro package. There are a couple more targets in deck that we might want to play. So moving on to the Maiden package, I run 4 of the Ribrianne Pretty Cannon Unleashed. Basically, we're going to play this guy top 5, find a Universe 2, Heroine text doesn't matter in this deck. And then for 1 energy, activate main, burst 2. So there's a ton of really good burst targets in this deck, and every time I burst it, I put something into the deck that was really, really good. or put something in the drop that was really, really good. But then you get to play a Universe 2 with an energy cost of 3 or less from your deck, as long as the character name is not the same as something on your field. So there are a couple targets that we can grab. The primary target is going to be teleporting Jamez. This is basically, it's a 15,000, doesn't have barrier, doesn't have deflect, but decreases the cost of Universe 2s in your hand by 2, but you still have to pay their specified cost. So this is important for getting to play our bigger cards, and you'll kind of see later that we want to use this to play cards that are going to solve specific problems, not because it can be aggressive. Though you could be aggressive with it if you wanted to. So 4 of those. He does also have the ability to warp himself during your turn and come back during your next, though that does open additional counterplay windows. Continuing the Universe 2, I run 2 of the Rosy Blast Manipulator. You could easily run this at 3. 2 was enough for me. I constantly had them as I needed them. You don't get to reduce her cost because she is a specified 3 green, but she is a discard 2 on play, and then she gains triple attack, which is incredibly good. She's a 15,000. She's a good unison killer. She's deflect. She's unresponsive. We do have a way to play her for free, though, so we'll get into that. Then, a lot of people aren't playing this card, but this card is easily one of the MVPs, especially with a Jamez on the deck. That would be Kakunsa, Beastly Maiden. Basically, Kakunsa for 1 energy with a Jamez on the field during your opponent's turn is a 1 energy counterplay or counter attack that pops a card when she's played. So there's no level requirement on this. So when you play her, you just pop a card as long as it doesn't have barrier. So this is really good against a lot of different matches. Like Soul Striker Janemba is gaining a lot of steam in the meta right now. And if your opponent is trying to make the Janemba board, you can play Kakunsa, pop the Janemba. It basically just shuts their turn down, or against a number of different things that are trying to put stuff out against you. Deals with Black Mass Saiyan, deals with a lot of other problem cards in the format. So 3 of those. Then kind of getting into the higher end, we play 3 of the Zerloin Maiden supporter. This card's got a lot to chew on, but basically when you play this card, you choose 1 green battle card in your hand with an energy cost of 4 or less and play it. So this will play Rosie for free. It'll play a lot of the other cards in the deck for free. If you have a Jamez on the field, so you're casting him for 3, you get to play like a Ribrian for free because she's a 3 in hand. But you get to play this card. Then auto, the second auto is you can KO this card. Your opponent can't attack with battle cards for the duration of the turn when they declare an attack. So you have this card on field, they swing with leader, you KO this card, the opponent can't attack with battle cards, can't provide pressure. And then auto, when this card is removed from your battle area by an opponent's skill or KO'd. So when he KOs himself, you get this effect. But you basically get to play a green battle card with an energy cost of 4 or less from your drop area. So the number of cards that you could play out of the drop area is slightly smaller, but you can absolutely put like another Jamez on the field, or you could play a Rosie from the drop area, though you wouldn't get her discard effect. It's just a really versatile card, and for 3 energy, it does a lot for the deck. Then kind of, this is the whole reason to me, Kakunsa and this card are the reason that we run the Maiden stuff. But we've got Ribery and Avatar of Affection. This is basically you play it and it clears your opponent's field, ignoring barrier. So it doesn't get rid of their unison, but it blows up all battle cards. And then when this card is removed from play, you choose 1 green battle card with an energy cost of 4 or less in your drop area and play it with its skills negated for the turn. Plus she's a 30,000 triple strike. So that is really big. So basically, and also when she's in rest mode, your opponent's battle cards can only attack this card. So it's very similar in funneling attack to like the Bergamo cards. But that wraps up the entire Maiden engine. I love the Maiden engine. It's a lot of fun. It's really consistent and it provides a lot of support for you. Kind of moving on to the yellow-green package. I then run 3 of the Android 13, The Mission Begins. This card is kind of like plays double duty in this deck because he's a double striker, so he helps blow out unisons. at the beginning of your opponent's turn, they have to choose 2 of their battle cards and KO them. Does not ignore barrier. But then also when he's in the drop area, you can pay 1 energy to warp him to KO a battle card with an energy cost of 3 or less. So this can get rid of problematic battle cards. You could play 4 of this. I found 3 to be enough. I saw them as frequently as I needed them. Super good. I played 2 of the Krillin and Android 18 power couple. This is another arrival for green. But basically, when you play this, you can either force your opponent to discard a card, or you choose one of their rest mode battle cards and negate 1 keyword skill from it. So if your opponent is swinging triple strike or double strike with something, you don't want to take that. You super combo, rival this out, take the triple strike off of it. You only take 1 damage unless you can out combo it, or make them discard a card. So this doesn't come up as frequently as I was like. I've seen a lot of lists play 4 of this card. I just don't think 4 is worth it. Though, like I said earlier, if I were to drop the Zarabons, I would play this at a 4 of probably, just for that added protection. I noticed that a lot of people are also playing the Android 14 and 15, the combos for free with this guy. But that card is just a combo card and doesn't do anything else for you. So really having the 4 super combos plus the yellow-green cards that we have is enough. And you don't really do enough with your energy to merit not being able to just tap 1 to combo and then tap 1 to arrival if you needed to. You do it so rarely that it doesn't really matter. Then we play 4 of the 9-drop Cell the Dark Parasite, not to be confused with Xeno Cell. This card lets you destroy all of your... It's kind of weird. It lets you send all of your battle cards. If you have 4 more energy, choose all non-token battle cards, KO them, then you get to play this guy. So it becomes that 9-drop 30,000. But I never really used him for that effect. The bigger effect, and people forget this, is activate main. If your leader is a green-yellow multicolor cell card, you can banish this guy in your drop area. So you basically send him from drop to warp to draw a card and then take up to 1 card in your life and add it to your hand. This just moves you through the deck. So on the leader's skill, you search your top 5, add a card, discard Cell the Dark Parasite, and you get another draw. It thins out your deck. It lets you see cards in your life if your opponent is trying to slow roll you. Or if you need to get to 4 to activate the Cell's surge effect, you can activate this. So just a super really good, consistent card. I wouldn't play this at anything less than a 4 because it effectively makes your deck a 46 card deck for playing this card. So 4 of those. Part 1 of the win condition for the deck is Super 17. It's a successor 9 for 2 green, 1 yellow energy. So turn 1, you're probably going to charge multicolor or charge a multicolor on like turn 3. But basically when he's played, you crit your opponent down until they have 4 life. So if they're at 8 life still, you get to crit 4 cards. It denies them 4 cards total over the game. And then less relevantly is when he attacks, you draw 1 card and then choose 2 of your opponent's cards and switch them to rest mode. Not entirely relevant. Most of the time what you're going to do is play this guy, crit your opponent down to 4, maybe pay 2 energy to use Rubrian to empty the rest of their hand, then drop a Xenocell. Super easy to resolve this effect. Most games that I've won with this deck have either been because I critted them with 17 and played Cell, or I was able to use the Maidens, get my opponent down to 4/3, play Cell, rip the rest of their hand out, and swing for game. So that's pretty much the win condition of the deck. Cell itself is an incredibly broken card, and you know, I really think, even though it's an ultimate, we could discuss this card getting banned at some point, though I don't think that'll ever be the case. Moving on to the extra cards, I do run 2 of Cell's Earth-Destroying Kamehameha. Again, could easily be a 3rd. Really good against decks that want to deal damage with their leader or are trying to put pressure on you, but you want to resource deny them. So you use this, get to discard a card from your opponent's hand. You just have to remember, if you charge a purely yellow card, you turn this card off for the rest of the game. So don't do that. Just 2. And then for negates, I run 3 Shocking Death Balls because sometimes you don't have an energy open and you need to be able to negate a major attack, or your opponent has problematic 1-drops on the field that are causing you issues. So Shocking Death Ball will help take care of those. And then I additionally, at a 3 of, run 3 Flying Nimbus. Remember, Cell is not a mono green battle card or leader, so you can't run Dormant Potential. So the next best bet is Flying Nimbus. I will be honest, because of the way this deck runs and how solutionary it is to opponents' boards, I've never really played either of these, Shocking Death Ball or Flying Nimbus, to stop my opponent. But you want it in the event that your opponent goes super aggro in like turn 2 or turn 3 while you're still trying to get up to turn 5. Because usually you can stop what your opponent's going to do, and you want to have these as a contingency plan, but I will usually try to mulligan for one or the other in my opening hand just to have it if I ever need it. So that, by my count, is, I believe, a 51 card deck. This deck is super consistent. Bigger issue, if you play this deck, your friends won't want to play the game with you. The deck is not particularly entertaining to play against. It's incredibly frustrating to play against. Hand control in this game is I think everyone's biggest problem with green. A lot of people want to blame it on Dormant Potential, or they want to blame it on the Demigod Unison. This deck doesn't play either of those. It doesn't have to play either of those. And just to illustrate that green hand control, the way that it is right now, is the problem that people have with green. It's not topping prevalently in the meta right now, but that doesn't mean that it's not a problem. You know, quality of game and game interaction between players is equally as important as how often a deck wins. If a deck is not fun or interactive to play against, it is equally as much of a problem as if it wins 90% of its games. So that's kind of my stance on that. I'll talk a little bit more about green later. I know we give Nick a lot of problems and we give a lot of each other problems. I played this at the locals this last weekend, and every match that I felt super bad because it didn't really matter what my opponent did. I just felt like I was able to work around, and, you know, kind of the systemic solution to playing against hand control is flood the field out, get quick in attacks early. But when you have stuff like Flying Nimbus that funnels the amount of attacks that your opponent can do, or you have Ribrianne, Avatar of Affection, that blows the field up and punishes the play against green, it's just, there's no great way to handle it one way or the other. You almost have to be specifically prepared to stop what your opponent is trying to do. But do give the deck a shot out. I think the deck is incredibly underrepresented in the current state of the meta right now. So the deck is really good. This deck saw a lot of popularity when the 9-drop Cell came out in set 10. But since Maidens have come out, it gives the deck a lot more versatility and problem-solving ability that it didn't have before. So, as always, thank you guys so much for watching. If you don't like having friends, or you wish that your friends would leave you alone, play this deck. I think that's pretty much it. Bancroft, anything to add?
No, I don't know. I didn't see it in action. I think it's garbage.
Yeah, Bancroft thought it was bad. It's not bad, I promise. As always, read your cards, know your plays, let us make mistakes so you don't have to. Let us lose our friends while you see what this deck does. And of course, fluff out.